Hi folks, welcome back to the channel and another flight with SimPilot 2450. Today we are in the state of Oregon. We are along the coastline. We are probably mid-state. And today we'll be flying a fun little flight. One of the things I like to do, I'm a real-world pilot and aircraft owner, and one of the things that you always love to do is you'd get home from work, jump in your plane and go to your favorite airport, do a few touch and goes, and then maybe fly down to a neighboring airport, do a few touch and goes, and then head back to your airport. So that is what we're going to do today. We are going to be departing Newport Municipal Airport, KONP, so Kilo Oscar November Papa, right here. And we will be flying east to Toledo State Airport. And you notice it's not very far away. Toledo State Airport is 5S4. And what we'll be doing is we'll take off here at Newport Municipal Airport. We'll do a few touch and goes. We'll circle out around the coast and come in the inlet here to the Yaquina Bay area and the Yaquina River, and we'll fly right down here, follow the river all the way to Toledo State. What's really fun about Toledo State Airport is when we come around this corner, it's a real interesting approach into 3-1. So it's a lot of fun. We do have custom sceneries today. We're using for Newport Municipal Airport. It's a custom scenery by AlphaRecon. We also have got some additional scenery. There's a beautiful bridge right here, and this bridge is by michelvp. And then when we get down to Toledo State, this scenery here is by, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, quelcertoleo. I will list these in the descriptions. All three of these sceneries can be downloaded at flightsim.to. For aircraft, we are going to be flying the Cessna 172 today. The Cessna 172 is a staple in American aviation. A lot of pilots, if you didn't learn in a 150 and you were using a high wing aircraft, then you probably used a 172. The 172's been around a long time. Actually, it's even been used in the military. If you did your flight training back in the 80s or 70s, part of your flight training is you had a pre-screening undergraduate pilot training, and you would do that in a Cessna 172, which was known as a T-41 Muscalero. So it's a fun little aircraft. Well, let's get ready to fly. I'll meet you at the airport. Welcome to the Cessna 172, and welcome to Newport Municipal Airport. It's a nice little airport. It's a custom scenery. It's freeware. Alright, let's get prepared for engine start. Fuel selector is on both tanks. Fuel shutoff is in. Come on with our power. Fuel supply looks good. Let's turn these lights down a little bit. Okay, let's turn on our beacon and nav. Check in the prop area. We'll crack our throttles. We'll come in with the mixture. Looking good. Clear prop. T's and P's are coming up. Looking good. We'll set our altimeter. Check our DG. We will be departing 16. That's all set. All right. Things are looking good. What I'll do is we'll taxi down here a little ways just so you can get a better look at some of the airport, and then we'll come back here and head down to 16. Take our parking brake off, come on with our taxi lights. Looking clear. So this airport is done by AlphaRecon. And can be downloaded at flightsim.to. So a nice little airport. Alright, we'll taxi around, turn here, and we'll head towards 16. It's an interesting little setup here because of this runway right here, or right at the end. But we're going to actually be heading down here because 16 is heading this way. As I mentioned in the intro, one of the fun things you like to do as an aircraft owner or pilot is you get off out of work and head to the airport. You jump in your plane, and nice evening, the wind's nice and calm. You love to do some touch and goes. You might do some touch and goes at your local airport and then fly down to another airport right in the area, do a couple touch and goes there, and come back home. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. So it should be a fun little trip. The airport at Toledo State, again, I mentioned it has some really fun approaches to 3-1, so that'll be really fun. Alright, how's our trim? It's set to take off. Looks good. We'll be rotating right around 50 knots. Probably climb out at 60 knots. We've got a pretty long runway here, so I'll be taking off with no flaps. Traffic's very light at these airports, so there won't be any or very little radio activity. So I think we'll just keep our radios off today. So here we are at the end of 1-6. We'll stop here. Do a quick run up. So there's 1800. Left mag. Right mag looks good. Altimeter is good, DG is good. Let's check final. Looking good. So we're going to take off and stay in the pattern. We'll do 1 or 2 touch and goes, and then we'll head down to Toledo State. Engine gauges look great. Alright, let's smoothly come in with the power. Maintain directional control. As we reach 50 knots, we'll slowly pull back on the yoke. It's 50 knots. So now I'm holding pressure on the yoke. I'm going to keep pulling back a little bit. I'm going to increase our rate of climb. Try to climb out somewhere right around 60 knots. Now as I'm holding back on this back pressure on the yoke, I'm also bringing in some up trim to relieve that pressure. Okay, so eventually, here's almost 60 knots. We should be able to release the yoke. I'm pretty much hands off right now on the yoke because I've trimmed up for 60-65. Alright, let's do our crosswind. We'll clear the area. Looks good. Now, one of the ways you know when you're 90 degrees is you'll take your heading here and match it up to this point. So we're coming up to our altitude, so we'll start our level off and come back with the throttles to probably 2300 because we're going to stay right in the pattern. So now we've got to put some down trim in because we're increasing our airspeed. If we don't do that, the airplane's going to want to climb. Here's our crosswind. Alright, we're going to turn downwind. Again, I'm bringing in still a little bit of down trim because we haven't quite reached our cruising airspeed yet. That's stabilizing pretty good right there. We'll roll out right here when we get into the 160 mark. There's 160, so that should be our reciprocal heading. heading 3-4, but we're looking at the bottom of the dial. So now I'm looking to try to line my strut up with the runway, maybe about halfway down the strut. Climbing a little bit, so we want to adjust for that. So here's the town of Newport. Here's the Yaquina Bridge that I'm telling you about. So when we get to probably 45 degrees from the threshold, we'll start reducing our power and we'll turn base. Alright, so we'll start our base turn. I'm reducing the power. Now I'm holding some back pressure. Trying not to climb, we want to keep it level, but we're also trying to bleed off some of that airspeed. So while I'm holding back on the yoke, I'm also now bringing some up trim in, because eventually we're going to trim up for 50 knots. So there's 90 degrees. I'm going to come in with a notch of flaps. Reducing some more power. Come in with another notch of flaps. And let's turn final. And I'm going to come in with our full set of flaps here. Slowly turning on to final, and now everything should settle in nice. Looking pretty good. I'm trimmed up now to where I'm holding no back pressure or any forward or down pressure on the yoke. So we'll come in with a little bit of power here. Trying to keep this picture steady. Coming in with a little more power. Getting lined up to the center line here. Flare coming off with the power. Looking good. We'll bring our flaps up. Now we'll come in with the throttles. And again, we're going to climb out at about 60 knots. So bring the nose up a little bit now, bleed off some of that speed. I'm giving a little bit of right rudder here to keep the ball centered. I'm pretty well trimmed out, not really holding any pressure on the yoke. So let's go ahead and we'll start our crosswind here. Let's see if we can do a little better on that landing. got 100 to go, so I'm going to start to reduce a little bit of the climb rate. There's 90 degrees. We'll level off here. Again, dialing in some trim to take care of that pressure on the yoke. Let's go ahead and turn downwind. We're trying to maintain right around 1,200 feet for pattern altitude. So there's our 340 heading. And again, I'm throttling back to about 2,300. You can see we're about midway, a little more than midway up the strut. Maybe this time I'll try to do no power landing. Meaning I'm going to come back all the way with the throttles, and let's see if we can judge it to where we won't need any power as we approach. I'll probably turn a little sooner than waiting to get to a complete 45 here with a threshold. So let's go ahead and turn base. I'm going to come all the way back with the power. Coming back with some back pressure. Starting to trim out some of the yoke pressure. We're going to trim up for 50. Roll out here on our 90. And again, let's keep that nose up a little bit to bleed some of that speed off. Again, we're looking for 50 knots. Haven't touched the throttles. So a lot of times when you get about to this highway, you can start to turn final. So I'm pretty well trimmed up there. I'm not using any back pressure. And we're just about 50 knots. And we may make it with no power, we may not. We'll have to see. It's looking pretty good right now. I haven't brought in any flaps yet. This is why the approach is kind of shallow, is because we have no flaps. I'm just trying to do this with no throttle, but I am going to need throttle, so I'll come in with some throttle. And let's go ahead and put in a couple notches of flaps just so we can have a little steeper descent. You see how our descent now has steepened up. Get lined up. There's just enough wind to play a little bit, make you work. Alright, we'll start our flare here. Nice. Alright, come off of the flaps. Coming in with full power. So here we'll head down to Toledo State. We'll climb up to only maybe 500 to 600 feet. We'll make a right turn out here. We'll head out over the ocean. Down the Yaquina River to Toledo State. So this 500 feet. Let's go ahead and start to level off here. We'll keep our turn coming around. And we'll fly out over the ocean here a little bit to the breakwater. And we'll head into the river, into the bay. Yaquina River. So here I'm still dialing in just a little bit of down trim to get trimmed up. So you see the nice bridge here. We'll get a good view of that. The airport is here off our wing. Pretty little airplane. We can go ahead and turn off our landing lights and taxi lights now. So this is the town of Newport, and then the town of South Beach here. So it's a short flight to Toledo State Airport. We're not going to take the direct route. What we're going to do is we'll just, at 600 feet, we'll fly along the river. But you can see he's done a super nice job with this bridge. And as we get closer, you'll see that the traffic actually flows across the bridge and not underneath it. Love this breakwater. And again, you see the importance of trim. Once you get trimmed up, you know, it makes it a lot easier to fly. You're not chasing everything. Now here where we are turning slightly, you know, I will have to give a little bit of back pressure just because we split the lift component. Let's try to check the bridge out here. See the traffic flowing right across it, nice. It's just done a super job. Got some crab boats down here. We'll fly down the river. Again, it's a very short flight. The airport is actually probably right down in here. But we'll fly the river. You'll see it's a real fun approach. Area to fly. See, there's a lot of little marinas along here. I'll turn here to the right a little bit and you can look out my window and see the marinas. Nice little marinas. The marinas here are also from a scenery titled Marinas that you can download from flightsim.to. Now at home, I live in the state of Maine. We have some nice rivers, and it's really fun to drop right down on the water and fly along the river. But we'll stay here at 600 feet. Airport is right here. So let's go ahead and come on with our landing lights. We'll start bringing back our power a little bit. I'm pulling back a little bit just to bleed the airspeed off. I've actually climbed a little bit. I didn't quite mean to pull that hard. Let's get slowed up to somewhere in around 80 knots, I think. Let's go ahead and bring in 1 notch of flaps. So we are basically on a left downwind. Okay, here's the airport right here. And we're going to sneak down around here and come in with a turning approach. It's really kind of fun. Alright, so I'm reducing the power some more. Coming back with the nose to bleed off that speed because we want to get somewhere into our 50 knot range. Another notch of flaps. Let's go ahead and come in with our last notch of flaps. And we're going to circle right down in around here like this. So coming in with a little power now. Haven't done this approach in a while, so it's interesting. This is the Toledo's town parking lot and boat launch. Coming in with a little more power. You see how you come right in around here. It's kind of fun. Reducing the power now to increase our rate of descent. Try to get lined up here. There we go. Let's see how we do. Well, that wasn't too bad. Taxi in and I'll show you the airport. Taxi light here. Strobe lights off. But I just love that approach coming into 3-1. I think that's a lot of fun. And you can just do a quick jaunt back and forth from here to Newport Municipal. So we'll go ahead and taxi back out to 3-1. We'll head home. On with our strobe. Landing lights coming on. Alright, let's set our trim to take off. And this airport's rather short for the runway length, so we'll come in with 1 notch of flaps. So this is the town's parking area. Now it's really odd because a lot of times I'll actually see automobiles here. I don't know why I'm not seeing it right now in my scenery. So that's interesting. Alright, I'm using the brake to help turn here. Alright, so our trim is set. We've got takeoff flaps. Let's head home. We'll get up on the center line here. So there's 50 knots. Rotate. Keep her out of the trees. Flaps coming up, and again we'll climb out at about 60 now. Big paper mill. This is Georgia Pacific. West. We'll climb out to 1,200 feet, and that'll put us pattern altitude for Newport Municipal. So you can just see the bridge right here. Drop off turn right here, west heading. There's 1,100 feet, so we'll start to level off. What I like to do is basically 10% of whatever your rate of climb is. So if you were climbing at 1,000 feet a minute, you'd start your level off at about 100 feet prior to your desired cruising altitude. We'll cruise at about 2,300, so that's pretty good right there. So again, who's your friend? Trim is your buddy, your friend. So I'm putting in some down trim right now, trying to trim the aircraft up for hands-off flying. Power set at 2,300. So our runway is the airport, but 16 is right here. So if we want to dial in 16, our heading indicator, that. Where are we? We're by it already. Alright, so this will give you one more opportunity to check out the bridge. So you can see we're almost on the left downwind for the airport for 16. Nice gentle turn onto final. Give you an opportunity to get a good look at the bridge. And I'll come back with the power a little bit. Come in with 1 notch of flaps. Start bleeding off some of the airspeed here. Turn coming around. Get lined up with the runway. So we will slowly bleed off our speed. See our airspeed, we're slowly bleeding off some. Let's go ahead and come in with another notch of flaps, and we'll get set up for our approach speed of 50 knots. So we're trimming up the aircraft for 50 knots. See, she's trimmed up right there at about 60. So we'll bleed off a little more speed, and then we'll relieve the yoke pressure, and then she should settle right down nice. So that's looking pretty good. Landing lights are on. We're drifting a little bit. I'm trying to get lined up again. Always fighting for center line. Sometimes we do a good job, sometimes we don't. Start our flare. There, and we're down. So we'll bring up our flaps. Let's taxi down to the hangar. So again, these are custom sceneries with their freeware. Come off with our taxi landing light and strobe. And we'll head right into our parking spot. So that was a fun little jaunt. I could do this for hours at night in my plane. Just sit there and do touch and go after touch and go after touch and go. You know, one of the funnest aspects of flying and one of the parts of flight that you'll just fall in love with is the challenge of doing a good landing. Alright, let's get this baby lined up. That looks good. Alright, things are good here. Let's close and come back with our mixture. Shut her off. Come off with our lights and our power. Well, there you go. We made it. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, have a great one. Thanks.